What do you mean you've only got one Y? Ah, well, okay, if you haven't got enough Ys, we'll have to get rid of you, the Joyce, and we'll have to find someone else for that role. Yeah, okay, well, that might do. Have our legal people spoken to her legal people? Because, you know, Well, there we are, folks. How to keep vampires away. Right, okay. This is... I lifted it a little while ago because I kept treading on it. I planted one piece of garlic and I've had about a 7-fold increase, which, you know, that's very, very pleasing. I've got another one ready to lift, and then I've got the 2 with flowers in. So that little garlic bulb that I shoved in a corner of dirt has done rather better than if I'd invested in, I don't know, well, gold or stocks and shares. So if you've got a little corner of garden, and if you've bought a garlic clove and you've cooked most of it, but one of them starts to shoot, just stick it in the ground. It will give you a return. Of course, one of the other things that vampires really don't like is daylight. And when I came back on Saturday night from Villiers, from the concert, I had a little problem. My headlights, they were quite happy on full beam, but they would not light on dipped beam. Now, the fact that both of them have gone out, I'm a little bit nervous about what could be the cause. So, you know, I'm hoping it's not a switch issue, because that could be great fun, couldn't it? I'm hoping it is just the bulbs have gone. So I better try and work out how on earth to change the light bulbs. It's all in French. Éclairage et signalisation d'extérieur 169. It may all be in French, but I'm hoping there's some idiot-proof pictures that will show me how to sort this out. When I was a kid, we all drove Ford Cortinas and things like that. You undid one screw on the bezel that held the lamps together, and you know, that was simple. And if you needed to change a bulb, you popped that one screw out, took the glass off, and whether you had a Cortina, Morris Minor, Singer Gazelle, didn't matter what it was, they all had the same bulbs in, and you went to a shop on the corner of your road and you got a replacement bulb. These days, of course, it's all complicated. See, now this book is only telling me how to make them work. It doesn't tell me how to change them. I wonder if there's somewhere in this book that tells me what I need to know. Or is this going to turn into one of those speak to main dealer problems? We'll work it out. Oh, there's the page with the pictures. Doesn't really sort of explain too much. I'm rather guessing that I'm going to have to just pop the bonnet open. Bonnet, not hood. Oh no, if we do it in French, it's a capot. We'll pop the capo open and see if we can get into the light unit that way. Well, this is sort of comical. That's where it all lives, and I've got a strong feeling that the easy way to do this is to take the light unit off rather than trying to get in there. Before I do that, I will just do what we all do, and I'll have a little look on YouTube and see if anyone has produced an idiot guide to changing light bulbs on a Kangoo. Well, getting that out was rather more fun than it should have been. It has a very simple little wire catch, which on these older vehicles you have to flip off the top. On slightly younger ones they've got a slightly better arrangement that you open the side. I watched the chap on YouTube and he was working on a newer vehicle, so that was an interesting little struggle, but I think we can all agree that that's had it, hasn't it? Now, one of the things in French law is you are required to carry spare bulbs. So let's see if I've actually got one. Well, the good news is I've got one. The bad news is, of course, I need two. So let's set about popping this one back in without touching the glass. You know the deal with these things. Well, little by little, I am learning to be a Renault mechanic. How about that? This is an interesting piece of nonsense. It's way, oh excuse me, the wind is getting a bit naughty. It's way easier to pop that out if you remove the complete headlamp. Yeah, you don't want to do that. It's a funny sort of horrible little catch that you can't get your finger into, and you can't see what you're doing. So I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll just pop the complete headlamp out. 5-minute job, isn't it? Popping it? No, it's not. Not on one of these. You start by loosening enough of this plastic that you can get in there, because there's a 10mm bolt that goes in there onto a captive nut, or a welded on nut I suppose, and the only way to get at that is by bending and twisting this horrible piece of plastic. That comes off quite easily. It's got one of those sorts of fastenings there, and it's got these comical little pip fasteners that go along the front. And yeah, I did search the internet, and no, I didn't find anyone who'd done any great explanations for this particular model of Kangoo. So there we are. Anyway, this bulb was absolutely fine, nothing wrong with it at all, which sort of makes me suspect, as I already did, that there's possibly a problem with the switch. If we think about this, one bulb you saw was blown, the other bulb is fine. Full beam works on both bulbs. Dipped beam doesn't work at all. Now, there are fuses on these cars, of course there are fuses, millions of them, lots of little ones. But I've pulled all of the fuses, I'll show you where they are in a minute, and not one of them has blown. But then, if it was a fuse problem, how would you have full beam and not dipped beam? You know, if it was a fuse problem, you'd have neither, would you? I think. And if it was a dodgy earth problem, Well, if it was dodgy earth, you wouldn't have full beam if you didn't have dipped beam. So I've got a bad feeling that it's a switch problem. Let's just go and have a look where the fuse box is on this car, just out of interest. Now, there are some things that I like about this fuse box. It's got a key that tells you where everything is, and it comes with a little fuse removal tool and some spare fuses, although I see a couple of them have been used, and that just pops back in there like so, and then it's got a couple of little twiddly fasteners that refasten it. That's what that panel is all about. Now, switches on steering columns. How much do I really want to take that apart on a Monday afternoon? Well, we've got the shrouds off and there's the switch, and hey, guess what? You can't take the switch out without taking the steering wheel off, can you? And you can't take the steering wheel off without demounting the airbag and all that stuff. So, I think it's time to talk to a professional. I feel a little bit sort of irritated, but the professional up the road at the garage is a nice guy, and this won't be the first Kangoo that he's seen. So there we are, unfinished business, never mind.